The time is here. By the end of today, I'm going to be back in the San Francisco Bay Area. 49ers veterans will all be there as well. Tomorrow is official veteran report day to training camp, and pictures like this that will probably confuse some people are going to start trickling in as soon as Wednesday. That, by the way, is a Guardian cap on Christian McCaffrey's head. That is a Guardian cap on top of Fred Warner's helmet. Players now wearing these caps at training camp practice. And every single season over the past few seasons, we've been asked about them just in case you wanted to know what those caps were. They reduce the impact and supposedly help with head health. And I think that's a good thing over the course of practice. So get ready for the Guardian caps. Get ready for the 49ers season. Their quest to replace 10,000 snaps after this extremely busy offseason is about to formally begin. They've replaced the snaps roster-wise, so they've replaced them on paper. Now it's time to do the work so that the production can pick up on the field. The 49ers finished 6-11 in 2024. So in my view, it's a good thing that they have to replace 10,000 snaps. It's a good thing that they have to replace 40% of their defensive snaps, because I've got a list of 5 key fixes. I've been talking about them throughout the entire offseason, but in this preview of training camp, we're going to frame it around the key fixes. And well, the first one on the list is fixing the run defense. If you're going to fix the run defense, maybe the first thing you need to do is replace the personnel. And the 49ers have replaced 40% of last season's snaps, and that group is going to work together on the field starting here in training camp when veterans report tomorrow, July 22nd on Tuesday. In the headline of this video, I talked about Jauan Jennings. That's obviously going to be a point of focus for San Francisco this week and maybe moving on into future weeks. We will see if Jauan Jennings shows up. Then we'll see if he is on the practice field. And then we'll see if he's actually in uniform on the practice field or if he'll just be watching, holding in. Jennings wants a better contract. Jennings probably deserves a better contract. Very unusual situation transpired over the course of the past year where Jennings signed for a discount because he was lower down on the 49ers pecking order. Brandon Ayuk obviously didn't sign for much of a discount, $30 million per year, but then Jennings outperformed Ayuk. Ayuk got hurt, and now Jennings, an integral part of what the 49ers are doing at receiver, coming off a 975-yard season, is definitely worth more than $7.5 million. That is what he's scheduled to make. The 49ers, though, are hesitant to give him a long-term deal. He's going to be 29 years old next year, and they just gave Brandon Ayuk a long-term deal. So the 49ers want to thread a needle, and maybe they'll do that with some extra cash, some extra incentives for Jauan Jennings. That situation has yet to be resolved. I also put Brock Purdy into the headline because Brock Purdy is somebody who everybody will be watching. He is officially the 49ers franchise quarterback over the course of the offseason. He signed a contract that ensures that he will be paid as a franchise quarterback. So he is the leader. Brock Purdy is the primary reason why the 49ers can rest easy while replacing 10,000 total snaps and 40% of their defensive snaps, because in the NFL, it is about having the quarterback, the most important position, settled, have that centerpiece taken care of, and then whatever happens around the quarterback, you can weather a lot of different storms if you have stability at that QB position, which is why paying Brock Purdy, and before that, finding Brock Purdy at number 262 in the NFL draft was so important for the 49ers. I also have Robert Saleh in the headline of this video, because when we talk about replacing all of those defensive snaps, when we talk about key fix one, the run defense, well, the overarching figure at the head of that entire effort is the 49ers' new and returning defensive coordinator. You can talk about a lot of potential upgrades that the 49ers have made personnel-wise over the course of this offseason, but a lot of those are theoretical upgrades. We're going to see how good Mykal Williams is. We're going to see how good Alfred Collins is. We're going to see how well Bryce Huff fits into the 49ers system. We're going to see how the 49ers replace Aaron Banks at left guard. Can they upgrade at that left guard position? Obviously, several different options seem to be in play for that spot in front of Brock Purdy. Those are all hypotheticals. What I know for sure is that the 49ers have a better defensive coaching staff than they did last season, because and even in 2023, because Robert Saleh is one of the best defensive coordinators in the entire game. He's back, and not only is he one of the best minds in the whole game, he is the perfect mind for the 49ers, and that's already been demonstrated, so it's no longer a hypothetical. Robert Saleh was Kyle Shanahan's pick for DC back in 2017 when the 49ers were first building this thing. He built this thing into a monster. That earned him the head coaching job with the New York Jets. He left there. Obviously, things didn't turn out all too hot for Saleh as a head coach in New York, but we can simply look at the reason why things didn't work there. It wasn't because his defense was struggling. It was because the Jets couldn't find stability at the quarterback position. And you can also argue that the ownership there wasn't all too conducive to head coaching success. Regardless of how that ended, Robert Saleh is back with the 49ers. He's back as a defensive coordinator, and that's a job that he has done very, very well over the course of his entire career. And he's got Gus Bradley now with him. Gus Bradley was Saleh's old boss in Seattle back when the Legion of Boom was first emerging. Gus Bradley was the Legion of Boom's first defensive coordinator, worked directly under Pete Carroll. Gus then went to Jacksonville to be a head coach. Now the 49ers have two former head coaches running their defense in Robert Saleh and Gus Bradley. A massive, massive step up coaching-wise over the past 2 years. It has been a struggle for the 49ers ever since DeMeco Ryans left to the Houston Texans to be their head coach. And Ryans, of course, was Saleh's successor as defensive coordinator with the 49ers. So when we talk about replacing defensive snaps, fixing the run defense, well, both of those things are going to go back to the rising tide that lifts all boats. And I think that is the better coaching staff for the 49ers. Why don't we talk about 49ers training camp battles to really preview this thing? I have the roster ready, and the roster is going to go up onto the screen right now. We can go through this position by position to really set the table for what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch will talk about tomorrow. That is going to be the season opening press conference for the 49ers, and then what we're going to see on the field in the days following that. The 49ers are going to practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Those are going to be non-padded practices. Then they're going to take Saturday off, and Sunday, I would guess, would be the first practice with pads for the 49ers. So that's when it's really, really, truly going to step up in intensity, and we'll be able to start evaluating some of these position battles. But going through things, there really is not going to be a battle at the quarterback 2 position. A lot of people trying to sell you some snake oil, trying to say that's going to happen. We're going to stick with the facts. Mac Jones is the 49ers quarterback 2. Curtis Rourke, the rookie, is likely going to be a redshirt player this year. He's on NFI, the non-football injury list, to begin the season. He played last year in college on a torn ACL. So Tanner Mordecai is the 3 for the 49ers. Then the question is, does Tanner make the 53-man roster, or do the 49ers play him on the practice squad? With no more Brandon Allen, I think that Tanner will make the 53, but he still has to earn it. He still has to play decently well over the course of training camp and the preseason to earn that spot. Is there some outside shot that ultimately he usurps Mac Jones? Of course. But Mac Jones right now is seated fairly firmly in that QB2 spot. You could just look at the compensation that Mac Jones got over the offseason. The 49ers signed him to be Brock Purdy's backup. Then the running back position. This is going to be really interesting because obviously McCaffrey is back. We could take a look at Christian McCaffrey right there. He's, of course, not in a battle for any sort of playing time. The 49ers love the fact that Christian McCaffrey is back. He is a future Hall of Famer. He's on that trajectory. I think that with full health, he's going to have a chance to take yet another step in his career. The 49ers, I think he's still in his prime. It may not have all too much of it left, but I think he still will be in his prime. And what happens behind him is going to be particularly fascinating because Isaac Guerendo was really, really good down the stretch of last season. After he got things figured out health-wise, once he started really feeling the playbook for the 49ers, he was catching the ball out of the backfield with regularity. He was running the ball well for San Francisco. Some of those short passes that Brock Purdy delivers out of the backfield, people don't understand how valuable having a running back who knows exactly what he's doing is, because people just think from playing too many video games, I guess, that you just hit a button on the controller and the quick pass out into the flat or the quick check down is an easy completion. But it's anything but that, especially in a timing-based offense, and especially in an offense that's predicated on drawing defensive attention with the running backs coming out of the backfield. The goal for the 49ers is to open guys up further downfield with the pass-catching abilities of their backs coming out of the backfield. If defenses don't respect the running back in the pass game, if you don't show defenses that you can burn them throwing to Guerendo, throwing to Christian McCaffrey, throwing to others, then what's happening further downfield with the receivers and the tight ends is not going to be as effective. So every level of this offense has to work, even if it's a decoy on any given play, because it's all about the gravity happening across all 22 on the football field. I think one of the reasons why the 49ers, and this is weakness number 2, key fix number 2, separation, they ranked dead last, number 32 in separation last year. One of the main reasons behind that was they were missing Christian McCaffrey for most of the season. They finally started developing a little bit more separation down the stretch run of the season once Isaac Guerendo was able to firmly fill in for Christian McCaffrey as that run receiving dual threat. So anyway, Guerendo is going to be behind McCaffrey, but the competition to fill out this roster will be absolutely fascinating. You've got Jauan Jennings, the rookie out of Oregon. Actually, he is from here in this Nashville area. Then you have Corey Kiner, who went to the University of Cincinnati, who, a lot like Jauan Jennings, has an excellent statistical profile coming from college, but not a great athletic profile. So we can deduce from that both of these guys know how to run the football. They're gamers. They're not burners. They're gamers. How are they going to perform in camp and then in the preseason? This should be one heck of a battle to try to get that final spot on the 49ers roster, 53-man roster at the running back position. Patrick Taylor Jr. Held that spot last year. And then, you can't count out Israel Bonaconda until it's over. But so far, the 49ers, who were able to pick him up off the Jets practice squad last year, so far, I have no indication that he's been rising up the pecking order. But he's going to have his chance over the course of this training camp. One thing that I will say is that at the running back position, breaking tackles is obviously one of the banner title items of the job, right? And it's going to be impossible to do that over the course, even of padded training camp practices, because the 49ers, just like essentially every other NFL team, are not tackling to the ground. So preseason is going to be even more important, I think, for the running backs, like the actual preseason games, than other positions, just because the live tackling is going to be there, and therefore the ability to break live tackling is going to be there. Moving on to the receiver position. Now, this is the one that is going to be the focal point of so much coverage over the course of this 49ers training camp. So this being the preview for what you're going to see over the course of the next month and a half. Brace yourselves, especially until the Jauan Jennings situation hits a resolution. Brace yourselves for a lot of talk surrounding the 49ers receiving room. For one, Brandon Ayuk is currently on the physically unable to perform list. 2, Ricky Pearsall also is on that physically unable to perform list. Here's a look at the list. People overreacted to this when it first came out a few days ago. I think many of them didn't realize that a player can come off of this list at any time. There is no 4-week minimum for the preseason training camp PUP and NFI list. So there's a very good chance that Ricky Pearsall is activated as soon as tomorrow or Wednesday before practice from the PUP, the physically unable to perform list. However, Brandon Ayuk is not going to be activated that soon. Ayuk might even transition over to the regular season PUP list where he would miss a minimum of 4 games. So then you got Ayuk missing 4 games. We've been talking about the Demarcus Robinson potential suspension for a long time now. And I think that's going to turn into a real suspension before the regular season starts. I think that the 49ers are counting on that. I would guess that it's going to be a 3-game suspension for the DUI arrest and the fact that he ended up pleading no contest to the misdemeanor DUI in Los Angeles County Court. So between Robinson and Ayuk, you're going to have at least 2 49ers veteran receivers missing. Jauan Jennings has a contract situation going on right now. Ricky Pearsall is on PUP, probably going to be off of it, but that just underscores the importance of Ricky Pearsall to this football team. Because if both Ayuk and Robinson miss week 1, as is expected, your top 2 available receivers, and assuming nobody gets hurt, knock on wood, over the course of training camp would be Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. Then you're going to have a battle between Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing, 2 guys who are burners. You know, one thing that the 49ers lacked last season when separation was such a big issue, when yak generation was such a big issue, was just burner receiver speed to stretch out the defense, not just blow the top off the defense, but to stretch it out. Jacob Cowing was the fastest player at the NFL Combine in 2024 in the first 5 yards off the release. Then you had Jordan Watkins. He was the fastest receiver at the 2025 NFL Combine in the first 5 yards after release. So that's a hell of a training camp battle to me. 2 smaller receivers. Watkins is bigger than Cowing, but 2 guys who get off of the line, something that the 49ers really, really could desperately needed last season, but Cowing wasn't big and strong enough yet to get regular snaps. He was only 168 pounds, and Watkins was still playing college football at Ole Miss. So how does it work with these 2 guys? Do they both have to play because the 49ers are so thin elsewhere at the receiver position? What will the injury situation look like week 1? This is going to be a living, breathing battle and a living, breathing situation over the course of training camp. We're also going to get a look at some of these younger guys. Tariq Owens, T.O.'s son, Isaiah Nair, 6'4", 220, runs like the wind. Hodgins, Gage, Malik Knowles, and then, of course, Junior Bergen, who is the 7th round pick, ties directly into key fix number 5 for the 49ers. That is special teams. League worst special teams. I opened the show talking about Robert Saleh and the defense and the coaching staff on the defense being so much better than it was before. The 49ers hope that the special teams unit has gotten the same kind of treatment. Brant Boyer is the new coordinator. He replaces Brian Schneider. I, though, did theorize over the course of the offseason that it's not just the coaching change that the 49ers needed to make in special teams. They also need to have a cultural shift on special teams. It needs to move away from something that is just told not to screw the game up to a unit that is told to go and seize victory. And I think Brant Boyer will bring that mentality if Kyle Shanahan allows him to bring that mentality, but that's a top-down kind of thing. That's a focus that Kyle Shanahan has to bring from the very top of the 49ers power structure. I think that Shanahan is on his way to doing that. I think the way that Brant Boyer spoke over the course of this offseason when he was introduced as the 49ers special teams coordinator is a good sign. And I always think that actions speak louder than words. And I think in this case, the 49ers, they let Brant Boyer have one of their draft picks. Pick number in the 7th round, the final pick number 11 of the 49ers draft was on Junior Bergen, who Brant Boyer knows from Montana because his son plays for the University of Montana. So he's teammates with Junior Bergen over there for the Grizzlies. But Brant Boyer, familiar with a player who returned an FCS record 7 kicks or 7 punts for touchdowns at Montana. So the 49ers have straight up said that Junior Bergen, who's a shorter player, 5'8", 5'9", who has said that he's going to make the Hall of Fame. That's his goal. Junior Bergen wants to set his sights on Canton, obviously has big-time aspirations. But the 49ers have said that this guy can make the team probably as a returner. Probably not going to happen as a receiver. Now, maybe he gets some time at receiver, especially if the 49ers are thin there. But they dedicated a draft pick to a returner, to a specialist. And that's not the only thing that they did this offseason to focus firmly on special teams. They also replaced their punter, Mitch Wishnowsky, with Thomas Morstead. They also replaced their long snapper, Tabor Pepper, with John Weeks. They also brought in competition for Jake Moody. We'll see how that competition goes. That's one of the 49ers training camp battles. Greg Joseph is the kicker the 49ers brought in to push Jake Moody. So all across the special teams unit, whether it be through veteran free agent signings like a Jason Pinnock, whether it be through draftees like a Junior Bergen, or whether it be through some signees at the true specialist positions like John Weeks and Thomas Morstead, or the coaching change that we've seen for the 49ers with Brant Boyer throughout the course of this entire offseason, they have said, we are going to completely rehaul the special teams unit, and we'll see how that goes in this training camp. All right, continuing with the battles to the wide receiver position, to the tight end position. We just finished wide receiver. George Kittle entrenched in his spot. He's got a new contract that he signed over the course of this offseason. Then you've got Luke Farrell, who is the signee, one of the 49ers higher price signees over the course of this offseason. He's going to be more of a blocker, which they've needed. Charlie Werner was the last time they had a true plus blocking tight end. Werner obviously went to the Atlanta Falcons after the 2023 season. Then they've got Jake Tonjes, Braden Willis, Mason Pline, and Ross Dwelly. Hello again to Ross Dwelly, who re-signed with the 49ers after a year with the Falcons over the course of this offseason. So what do you do with this group? Do you carry 4? Do you carry 3? Who will be number 3? Who will be number 4? I think it's clear who numbers 1 and 2 are on this 49ers team. For 3 and 4, we wait and see. Can Pline, the former college basketball player, take the next step and unseat somebody like Braden Willis? I thought Jake Tonjes has done a lot as far as strengthening of his body over the years to earn his way onto the 53-man roster last year. And of course, Ross Dwelly is the seasoned veteran of this group. They can really use his veteran leadership to help usher some of the younger guys along, but maybe Ross still has something left in the tank to become 49ers tight end number 3. Intriguing battle at that position as we move to the offensive line. All right, with the offensive line, we go to the injury list that came out the other day. I made a whole video about this yesterday. The PUP list, well, you got players who you expected on there, and some players might be coming off very, very soon. The NFI list, well, George Odom's no longer in the team. They've released George Odom, so you might as well just cross George Odom's name off of that list entirely. But Ben Bartch, he was the one big surprise on either of these two lists when they came out Friday. NFI means non-football injury, an injury that happened away from the team facility. So we will find out tomorrow what exactly happened with Ben Bartch. But the reason this is so significant is if you go and look at the 49ers setup along the offensive line, we have Ben Bartch slated to be the 49ers starting left guard right there. He's penciled in as the starting left guard. Trent Williams, obviously left tackle. Brendel, obviously the starting center. Dominic Pooney, right guard. And Colton McKivitz, right tackle. Not much question about the line outside of left guard where Aaron Banks has departed in free agency. But Bartch now lands himself on NFI, so that opens the door to a whole bunch of possibilities. One of those possibilities, obviously, is Connor Colby, the rookie 7th-round pick out of Iowa. Another possibility, maybe a more realistic one in the short term, is Nick Zakelj, who is going to be entering his 4th year with the 49ers, former roommates of Brock Purdy. Don't, though, sleep on Matt Hennessy over here. They picked him up from Atlanta last year. Matt Hennessy has played a lot of center, but he's also played left guard in his NFL career. There's a chance that the 49ers are looking at Brendel, Zakelj, and Drake Nugent as their centers. We'll hear from Nugent, I'm sure, over the course of this training camp as well, while they're looking at Bartch, Colby, Matt Hennessy, and Zach Johnson as their guards. There's going to be some sort of interchangeability between center and guard. There always has to be, given the size of NFL rosters. But to me, one of the main pressure points of focus that we need to be looking at, especially in terms of these training camp battles, comes at that offensive line in front of Brock Purdy. Now, a lot of people who are a little ill-informed will just cry about the offensive line and say that it's the worst unit in the league, and that's just not true. The 49ers in some ways were actually above average last year, but in some ways they were below average along the offensive line. To me, it's a middle-of-the-pack offensive line that can get better through subtraction over the course of this season, because Aaron Banks was not a great player for them last year, but how they're able to pick up the slack at the left guard position is going to go a long way toward determining whether or not the 49ers can be better up front next year. You know me, I've predicted that Connor Colby, the rookie out of Iowa, is going to make a move at some point this season. Maybe it's going to be an injury-fueled move. You always have to count on injuries to happen. I mean, as bad as that sounds, it's just the reality of life in the NFL. These guys are playing a 17-game season now, and with that 17-game season, there's just no way that you're going to make it through 100% healthy, even 90% healthy from start to finish. So you have to have some of that depth, and I think that Connor Colby, at the very least, is going to be a very, very important piece of that puzzle. We'll see how long Barch is out for. Then we'll see who takes his immediate spot. I would predict it will be either Zakel or Matt Hennessy. Probably Zakel, who finished the season as the 49ers left guard last year when Aaron Banks was hurt. So I think that's how the season or training camp is going to start. But then we'll see how the battle evolves over the course of the next month and a half before the 49ers open the 2025 regular season on September 7th at Seattle. It's at Seattle, and then it is at New Orleans. 2 road games for the 49ers to begin. Then they host the Cardinals on September 21st. That will be the opener at Levi's Stadium. Then Jacksonville comes in, and then the 49ers head to the Rams, Thursday Night Football in Week 5. In all, the schedule for the 49ers seems favorable this year, but you never know how that's going to pan out in the NFL. It definitely seems more favorable than it did last year. You never know how the strength of schedule is going to pan out because teams change so quickly in this league. On paper, though, it is a weak schedule as far as opponents' strength of record from last year. What we do know, though, that is it's never easy to be a West Coast team. You have to travel a lot. There are early body clock starts that the 49ers have to deal with, and it's never smart to underestimate a schedule. I just want to deliver when the 49ers are starting this journey for real, and that's September 7th. But it's training camp that we're previewing right now, which will begin in earnest this week. All right, so we've gone through some of the battles on the offensive side of the ball. How about we flip to the defensive side? Because this is where the 49ers are replacing 40% of their snaps. So if you zoom out and look at the roster as a whole, green means that it's a rookie. Left side of this dividing line is the 53-man roster and the players that I project to make that roster for the 49ers. And they've got a lot of rookies, according to my projection, making the roster. Jordan James, Jordan Watkins, Connor Colby, that's 3. 3 defensive linemen, that's 6. Nick Martin, the linebacker, that's 7. Upton Stout, that is 8. Marquise Siegel, that is 9. I've got 9 players making the 53-man roster. Maybe they surprise me and 10 or even 11 players make the 49ers 53-man roster, but we shall see. You look down here at the defensive line. This is where some of the most intriguing positional stuff is going to happen over the course of training camp. If the 49ers see this develop the way that I'm sure they would love to see it develop, they will have 3 rookie starters along the defensive line. Shades of the 2024, 2023 Rams. The Rams of the past 2 years have really focused on rookies along the defensive line. Now they have some veterans who could hold down the fort for the time being if some of the rookies are taking a little bit longer to develop. But in an ideal world, the 49ers will have CJ West with his violent hands, the big nose tackle type out of Indiana, take over the one technique. They'll have Alfred Collins, who just signed his contract for 88% guaranteed to end that standoff. And that was really good news for the entire NFL because now other second-round picks have signed. They'll have him playing the base down 3 technique. And, of course, their first-round pick, Michael Williams, will be the defensive end to bookend things for Nick Bosa. So you got Bosa, West, Collins, and Williams. But what's exciting to me, and I think what's exciting to Chris Kasarik, is that you've got veterans to help fill in some of the gaps here. Obviously, Bryce Huff, who you traded for, he is a pass rushing specialist, so I don't consider him a base down player, but he's going to play a whole heck of a lot. He might even play more than some of these guys on the starting four that I have on base downs. But you have a Kevin Givens who can really help out Alfred Collins and CJ West. He's been with the 49ers since 2019 as a solid defensive lineman. You have Yetur Gross-Matos, who might be coming off of PUP in just a couple days. He had some knee wear and tear that he was recovering from at the end of OTAs, which is why he's currently on PUP, but I don't think that's a long-range thing for Yetur. And Yetur can play on the outside. He could play on the inside. That's what you're looking at from Michael Williams. You're looking for a versatile defensive line. I've written so much about this for the San Francisco Standard over the course of this entire offseason. You want adaptable pieces so that Chris Kasarik and Robert Saleh can rush creatively up front and A, stop the run, but B, bring pressure on those pass rushing downs in a way that the 49ers weren't able to bring pressure last season. They did, whenever they were able to bring pressure, the 49ers were a top 5 defense by EPA last year. When they didn't bring pressure, they were a bottom 5 defense by EPA last year. So they were pressure dependent, but the pressure didn't come nearly enough because they didn't stop the run nearly enough. And the only way that you deliver pass rushing pressure is if you're consistently solid in defending the run. That's what San Francisco must focus on. That's what they have focused on with some of these picks. CJ West was one of the best run defenders in all of college football, transformed Indiana's run defense. Alfred Collins, when he was on the field, Texas only allowed 2.9 yards per rush. And Michael Williams, they think he is the best edge setter in all of college football. Let me turn on the fan. Give me a second here. It's a little hot. All right, a lot better. Fan is going. We had the air conditioning on, but I think when I just sit here talking for 32 straight minutes, ends up overheating me, if you will. So, I mean, talking about the 49ers defensive line is exciting. I haven't even gotten to Evan Anderson yet over here. Evan Anderson might be their best pass rushing defensive tackle. Kalia Davis on the roster bubble. We'll see Sebastian Valdez, undrafted free agent out of Washington, how he does. If anything, the 49ers are missing a true pass rushing DT. Like they had two of those guys last year in Hargrave and Malik Collins, but they let both of them go because the run defense wasn't good enough. That is priority number one, is stopping the run. Nothing else matters. So they might be a little thin on the pass rushers at defensive tackle, but they've definitely stocked up on the run stoppers for priority number one entering this 2025 season. All right, replacing 40% of those defensive snaps, 10,000 snaps total. Some of the snaps they'll have to replace come at the linebacker position, where we're going to get into more 49ers training camp battles. Here's the linebacker spot. You've got Warner. You've got D. Winters. I think they're very high on D. Winters. I thought that he did a lot of good stuff last year. D just has to prove that he's durable. Show some durability. I think the linebacker 2 spot is his, and I think that Nick Martin eases into the position through the third linebacker spot over the course of this season. Martin is the pick out of Oklahoma State, 3rd rounder, good-looking player. Before injury, he had a 141 tackle season for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Sorry to anybody from Oklahoma. I almost called Oklahoma State the Sooners. That would have been really embarrassing. No, they are the Oklahoma State Cowboys. It's the Oklahoma Sooners. But Nick Martin was a very, very intense tackling machine at Oklahoma State. So I think the 49ers are really excited about his potential development. Maybe he can usurp D. Winters sooner rather than later, but I do think that D. Winters has the inside track at that linebacker 2 spot. That is one of the more interesting battles on this 49ers roster, because they've also added other guys they really like. Chaz Surratt is somebody who Robert Saleh has been a huge fan of his, coached him with the Jets. This is a veteran, former college quarterback at North Carolina. How often do you see quarterback to linebacker, that transition? He made that transition in college, and it's led to a nice NFL career. Now, this is another special teams ace. This is another guy who should help out Brant Boyer a lot. So I think that he's going to earn a spot on this 49ers roster. Then there's Luke Gifford. Then there's Tatum Bethune. Bethune was the 7th round pick for the 49ers out of Florida State in 2024. So this is a chance for him to take that next step. But boy, there are a lot of new faces in that linebacker room. Before we even get to this side of things, Curtis Robinson coming off the torn ACL, so he won't be at camp, at least the start of it. Jalen Graham and Stone Blanton out of Mississippi State. Speaking of tackle machines, Stone Blanton was a tackling machine over the course of his college career. So linebacker's a big free-for-all. That's the way I look at it behind Fred Warner. And for a defense that's trying to get younger, that's trying to get faster, that's trying to get hungrier, that's trying to get healthier, you like free-for-alls with young guys. If you could just get a lot of talented young guys, put them all in the room, all of them have team-friendly contracts, and just let them battle. And I think it's kind of like the Hunger Games in linebacker position for the 49ers. We'll see who sinks and who swims for San Francisco. Remember that Robert Saleh is really a defensive coordinator who has come up through the lineage of linebackers coach. The 49ers, when they built this defense and all the way through D'Amico Ryans, right? Because this was 2 years after Saleh left, they've built it through coordinators with linebacker coaches' backgrounds. And I don't think that this is a coincidence. I think that you've got the front four with the defensive linemen, and then I think that you have the back four with the 2 cornerbacks and the 2 safeties, the secondary. The one position group that binds everything together, that has to execute tasks of both units, right? Run defense because they're up in the fray, but pass defense because the NFL has turned into a fast game, all-out aerial assault, is the linebacker position. The linebackers are the glue that holds your defense together because they have to be big and strong enough to stop the run, but also fast and skilled enough to defend against the pass. And the 49ers, I think, figured this out back in 2017 when they hired Robert Saleh, a guy with a linebackers coach's background. He was the linebackers coach at Jacksonville, to be their defensive coordinator. And look how well they've developed linebackers over the years. Because D'Amico Ryans was an all-pro linebacker, by the way. So he took over for Saleh. So they went from linebackers guy to linebackers guy at their defensive coordinator spot. But they've developed Fred Warner. They've developed Dre Greenlaw. They've developed Azeez Al-Shire. And now they have to develop the next wave of players. D. Winters, Nick Martin. Let's see if they can do anything with Tatum Bethune. Let's see what Chaz Surratt can do under Robert Saleh, a coach who's been very fond of him throughout his time in the NFL. Let's see what Luke Gifford, who's a fast linebacker, can do for the 49ers, and go all the way down to Stone Blanton. I mean, I won't even rule Curtis Robinson out of this entire mix, because Curtis is somebody who was playing his best football last year when he tore his ACL right at the end of training camp. So if Curtis can come back, and I think he's trending well in his rehab, I think that he can also make noise because he was flying around the football field. So a lot of opportunity at this linebacker position, especially since Dre Greenlaw is now in Denver. All right, how about a look at the training camp battles at the defensive back position? Maybe we divide this cornerback and safety, right? This is good water, by the way. I know it's fancy water. This is not a paid advertisement. Icelandic glacial water. This is one country we haven't been to yet, Iceland. We keep on seeing videos because YouTube and its algorithm, I guess, have decided that I need to see videos of Iceland, and it looks really cool. All right, on to the defensive backs. Cornerback position, Lenoir locked in. Renardo Green locked in. Who's the third cornerback going to be? Upton Stout, the rookie out of Western Kentucky. Trey Brown, the veteran out of by way of Seattle. Trey Brown came to the 49ers as a free agent. Does Darrell Luter Jr. make a move? Saran Neal essentially takes over for George Odom as one of the 49ers key specialists. But, I mean, you look up and down this cornerback depth chart, and I think you see 2 primary possibilities. One is that Upton Stout impresses them so much that he wins the nickelback position right out of the gate. If that happens, then Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green both solidify themselves as outside cornerbacks, unlike last season when Deommodore Lenoir had to move over here to the inside nickelback on nickel situations against passing formations. However, the option 2 here is that Trey Brown wins an outside cornerback job because he is more impressive and the 49ers are more comfortable with him than Upton Stout, at least at the start of the season. And that would mean that Trey, who's not an inside cornerback like Upton, would play outside cornerback on nickel downs, so like 70% of snaps, and Deommodore Lenoir would do what he did last year and move inside. I think the 49ers would prefer that Upton Stout impressed them enough to win that nickel job, but nothing is guaranteed in this situation. You've got to go with the better player, and you have to let Darrell Luter Jr. try to prove himself as well. He still hadn't had a real firm shot to grab a spot at cornerback, and this might be the year for Darrell to make that type of move. So exciting battle at cornerback. You've got some younger guys like Jacob Robinson and Derek Canteen in there as well. Veterans like Dallas Flowers and Trey Avery can also compete for San Francisco. Important position to field depth. So is safety. Now, they let Odom go, but they never looked at Odom as a serious safety. That was a backup, and Odom was a great special teams player. This year, the 49ers, Malik Mustafa's coming off the ACL. Really good safety, right? He was a rookie last year, played really, really solid football for the 49ers. Jair Brown is cleared following the ankle surgery. Will we see him taking first-team reps from the very get-go, or is it going to be Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock? I think ultimately, as camp progresses, we're going to see Pinnock and Brown as the ones, with Marquise Siegel, not on NFI, cleared, healthy to go, fastest safety in the 2025 draft class, making a move for the 49ers, saying, hey, I think I should be in this mix as well. In an ideal world, Marquise Siegel will be as good for San Francisco as Malik Mustafa was last year. But even though Malik Mustafa was so good last year, it took a few weeks for him to assume a starting role. So don't expect Marquise Siegel to be the week one starter at safety. It just doesn't seem to work that way. There's a reason why the 49ers picked up the guys in teal. Teal means free agent signing, and that is because they want veterans to give them that little floor, a higher floor at the start of the season. And then you take your big swing with somebody like Marquise Siegel, who I do not think we should sleep on. I also don't think we should sleep on Jason Pinnock. All these traits-based players, Pinnock, Siegel, great 40s, great vertical jumps. Those are guys who the 49ers believe at safety can also flex down into a nickelback role. So if your nickelback position is still a little up in the air, as it is with Upton Stout, or is Deommodore Lenoir going to move in? Say that you want Deommodore Lenoir to stay outside all the time, outside cornerback, every single snap. But say that Upton Stout isn't ready enough yet to be a trusted starter, a guy that's in there on 70% of the snaps. Another option that you might have as the 49ers is to take Jason Pinnock and play him in the Jimmy Ward role. Remember what Jimmy Ward did for the 49ers? He would come down from safety to nickelback, and he would cover a lot of these really, really good receivers lining up on the inside. Cooper Kupp comes to mind. Back in his prime, Jimmy Ward did a good job against Cooper Kupp. They believe, the 49ers do, that Jason Pinnock can do similar things athletically as a prime Jimmy Ward. So say that Upton Stout is not ready to play nickel yet, so you're playing Trey Brown on some of these snaps, but then Deommodore Lenoir, you want to keep him in as an outside cornerback, and you want to stay with your safeties and you want to stay with your alignment. You don't want to bring in a specialized nickel package. You can actually move Jason Pinnock down to cover the slot. The 49ers have already talked about this possibility. They're looking at Pinnock as a potential Jimmy Ward. The Jets talked about this when Saleh was their defensive coordinator, and they had Pinnock. They talked about Pinnock as a Jimmy Ward type of player. He's got that kind of athletic ability, and I think that the 49ers will definitely use that versatility to try to bring out some personnel packages that keep their strongest players where they want to focus their strongest players. So if you want to focus Deommodore Lenoir on the outside, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case every single snap, but if you want to do that, a guy like Pinnock might give you the flexibility to do that, even if other things don't go completely according to the 49ers' most desired plan. So safety is going to be very, very fascinating. I can't wait to watch that position battle on this 49ers roster. Then, this one, we go key 5, fix special teams. Well, 49ers have a lot of new guys on special teams. Weeks is the new long snapper. They think that can really help Jake Moody if Moody wins that kicking job. Morstead is the new punter, so he'll be the holder for Jake Moody. Worst special teams in the league last year. There's Moody. Here's his competition, Greg Joseph. So that is a look at the entire 49ers roster, all of their training camp battles. I will tell you this too. They've got $47 million in 2025 salary cap space. So why don't we just zoom out and consider everything that the 49ers have done over the past few months? It's been a wild offseason for San Francisco, replacing 10,000 total snaps, replacing 40% of defensive snaps, bringing in Robert Saleh, so cleaning house of defensive and special teams leadership with more experienced coaches who they think can take this team back to the next level, overhauling a lot of this football team around a very tried and true veteran core, which they doubled down to pay. The 49ers are top 3 in spending again because they gave big money to Brock Purdy, big money to George Kittle, big money to Fred Warner. Now we'll see how they handle the Jauan Jennings situation, because I think at least on some level, he is part of this team's core. But they've transformed so much of what they're doing supporting cast-wise. When we talk about the meat of this roster, right? They got the structure of the roster, then they have the meat of this roster. They've transformed so much of what they're doing in that way at a budget and with financial mechanisms that have allowed them to maintain $47 million of salary cap space entering the season. Now, the way that the 49ers are operating, they do this as aggressively as anybody in the league. Probably the only team that could match the 49ers in technique is the Philadelphia Eagles, and they just won the Super Bowl. The 49ers have deferred a lot of the salary cap costs backwards. They have escalating costs in future seasons. Unused salary cap space carries over from season to season. So the 49ers will obviously want to preserve a good chunk of salary cap space and carry it over into 2026. That is part of their year-to-year financial planning. That being said, another part of their year-to-year financial planning is maintaining flexibility in the near term to be able to add contracts whenever opportunities pop up. An opportunity popped up a month and a half ago, or 2 months ago now at this point, when Bryce Huff became available. That was one of the missing pieces for the 49ers. They traded for Bryce Huff. They absorbed part of his contract. They made the Eagles pay for a lot of it, but they obviously had the salary cap room to do it. If anybody else becomes available, if they need another receiver, if they need another offensive lineman, it's easier said than done, because these guys aren't just floating around, walking around the street to grab and bring into your building. But oftentimes a trade can happen. Trades are becoming more and more frequent in the NFL, or you could just run into some good luck. Well, the 49ers have the financial flexibility to capitalize if that does indeed happen. You have to be on your toes. You have to be nimble as these seasons develop. And I think the 49ers are ready to do that as they enter 2025 training camp. So 49ers, fix number 1, the run defense. I think we talked a lot about how they might do that. Key number 2, improve separation. Key number 3, they went from 1 to 32 in yak. I think improving separation, improving yards after the catch go hand in hand. I think key number 4 actually sets up keys 2 and 3. Run better on early downs if you're the 49ers. How do you run better on early downs? Well, maybe this guy will help you do that. I think Christian McCaffrey is so much of the 49ers plans, and as he should be. It's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he transforms football teams, and he's back. He's healthy. He's going to be very, very important for the 49ers in this 2025 season. And then key 5 for San Francisco, fix special teams. I know that might be a little independent of the other 4 keys, but it is very, very important. You take care of all 5 of those things, even if you just marginally improve all 5 of those things, suddenly, I think you're at least a 10-win team if you're the 49ers. Given the schedule, maybe you're a 12-win team. I think I said 11-6. People got mad at me. They said, no, this is going to be a 12-5 team, a 13-4 team. Well, why do you actually care about my prediction? I cover the team, right? We go through this week by week. Realities are going to change. We'll have predictions at the start of every month. But I think we should just go and track this as it develops, because it's going to be a hell of a ride. So as I said, by the end of today, I'm going to be back in the Bay Area. Tomorrow, Shanahan and Lynch. This has been your ultimate 49ers training camp update. I will tell you guys right now, we have a members only release. You should go to the YouTube page. You will see right here, if you go to the actual YouTube page, you will see that there is a members only video. This is what you need to watch entering training camp. I talked to Jim Cotta, who is the former head strength and conditioning coach of the Lakers. He's worked with Shaq. He worked with Kobe. He also worked with Terrell Owens. We talked all about health. We talked about training camp. We talked about McCaffrey, George Kittle. It's an hour and a half, over an hour and a half. Members get access to these videos first. Members will have special meetups over the course of the regular season. We're going to have virtual meetups. We'll have in-person meetups. I think we already have like 100 people who have signed up for memberships. You will get access to this video first. This is your must watch today. And I think there's several different tiers of membership. All of them get to watch the videos early though. So you could sign up for the Steve Young, the Jerry Rice, or the Joe Montana. That is your homework. Also sign up for the San Francisco Standard as articles come out. And above all else, this will cost you absolutely nothing. Hit that notification button, because as this season gets rolling, there's going to be a lot of content coming out. We're already killing it with all this content. We've got 30,000 views per video. It's going crazy. So I know a lot of you are very, very excited about what's to come, and more viewers are going to be rolling in over the days. That means more and more videos are going to be coming out. You should know immediately when the video drops, when it comes out. So hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Everybody will be happy. All right. We will be on this journey together. This is your first update of 2025 49ers training camp. Hopefully it was all inclusive. Hopefully it was comprehensive. We will talk to you very soon.